and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Occupancy podcast. I'm Julie Podewitz, and today I welcome David Kieffer, Vice President of Sales of New Perspective Living. Hey, David.
Hello, Julie. I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
I am very excited to talk to you. True confession. This is take two. David was amazing our last podcast chat, and due to technical difficulties, I asked him back, and he's kind enough to repeat everything he said in the first podcast, which was absolutely perfect. So no pressure.
Well, thank you, Julie. Now you'll know if I'm being honest or not, if I give you the same message. So good test.
Yeah, actually we do this for every guest and just to test that. So David, for those of you who don't know, really one of my favorite people in senior living. He's got many years experience in senior living, probably about 20. And he has a proven track record with both large companies and startups. And he uses proven sales systems and solutions that bring predictable results. I would absolutely love to learn more about that. And he's very passionate about teaching the fundamentals of building strong relationships and thoughtful follow-up, so critical in our business. He believes that prospects make their buying decision based on these relationships. They're built with the team that they meet and their experience during that decision-making, walking through the community and meeting team members and residents and feeling the energy within the community and the team. So welcome, David.
Thank you.
So David, proven sales systems. So can you explain what do you mean by sales systems? And can you give us an example?
Yeah, I would be happy to. So being my 21st year in the industry, definitely a lot of lessons learned on the journey. And I think one lesson is we tend to overcomplicate the sales process, and we're focused on an epic hot dog event or ice cream event versus building trust and relationships with our prospect. So several years ago, I had the pleasure of learning from David Smith and Alex, who are now the co-founders of Sherpa, a CRM, and they really taught me the importance of slowing down to speed up, less leads, going deeper with those leads, and truly nurturing the relationships. And it's been amazing watching our marketing spend actually go down as our conversions go up, and move-ins are quickly following those metrics.
You know, we hear this all the time. We need more leads, right? And I just recently was on a webinar where it's like more leads. Well, I think what we mean is we would like those, give me more of those ones that go through the funnel really quickly and have a check in hand when they come tour. Yep. If you could just open that funnel up, to your point, there's a finite number of people, right, that we can put into the top of that funnel, open it up more, and meaning convert, to your point, increase those conversions. Because
exactly.
Yeah. What would you say, David? What's one area you really focus on that you've seen great results?
In the sales process, or in the
in
the sales process, it's truly having our sales directors and executive directors build their own sales goals every month based on the prospect-centered sales approach. So measuring home visits, creative follow-up, prospect case studies. Those are the true 3 revenue-generating activities. And to have our community-level teams build their goals every month versus corporate building goals has been really impactful. And then loading those goals into our CRM and providing our executive directors a dashboard every day of where their sales director is versus their goals for the month. Because we truly believe and have found that if you follow that roadmap of activity and you do a quality job, a thoughtful job, the move-ins will always follow.
And who puts those together? Who builds the goals at the team, at the community level? Who's involved?
Yeah, so we built a template from our resource center, which is our corporate office. We like to be a resource to the field, not talking heads running around. And we built a template that spelled out what activities that we're looking for, and then what the minimum expectation is. And then it's up to them to fill out that template month over month over month. And it's a beautiful exercise because the sales director most of the time will underpromise and have low numbers. Then the executive director, if they're truly leading sales and are a champion, are going to negotiate and try and increase that. And then from our district team, our district sales leaders then are going to look at the goals again and maybe tweak some up or down. But it's a true group, thoughtful exercise.
So your executive director, it sounds like the sales director or directors start. Executive directors take a look, tweak when necessary, challenge. We hope they challenge, right? And then your regional oversight there to be in agreement. Perfect.
Exactly.
That approach, David, supports, taking ownership. I think we often talk about, take ownership of your business, take ownership of your results. And
exactly.
If you've built the plan, you're more likely to take ownership of it, it sounds like.
Correct. And some communities are lead rich, meaning we coin that as having more than 7 leads per vacancy. And some communities are lead anemic, and we coin that as being 6 or less leads per vacancy. So depending on where a community falls, they may need to have more outreach goals, or they may need more nurturing goals and home visits. So it is a community by community a look at the business.
Yeah, which really makes sense. It's good, companies who don't have, any at this time benchmarks, expectations. Certainly step one is to put those in place. Correct. Generally speaking. But like you said, once those are in place, then you can tweak, because one size doesn't fit all in the very narrow specifics. You need the activity benchmarks and outreach and conversion benchmarks generally, right? But to your point, it's interesting. So you lead rich for you guys is 7 or more leads per empty apartment.
Precisely.
Okay. And then anything under that is lead anemic. Correct. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, and that drives a lot of our decisions. And I guess what I'm very cautious of, being an ex-sales director, executive director, consultant, that I don't want to talk about phone calls and emails, because time and time again, there's no correlation to more calls, more move-ins. Sherpa just came out with a study, I think last month in March, that spoke to that exact point, that call outs will actually decrease your move-in average, home visits will increase. So the recipe is really there. It's just being disciplined and coaching your sales directors, and then having the accountability and inspirational measures in place.
What do you say to either your team members or someone listening who are like, oh, home visits, I don't want to bother people, or, are seniors or older adults really comfortable having a stranger, quote unquote, in their home? How do you kind of work through that barrier?
That's a great question. I'll tell you, the old me, learning through experience, was just letting them know, get over it and do home visits. It's going to work. It didn't go over too well. Then started painting the picture of the generation that we're serving. And the average 90-year-old is used to the milkman coming, is used to the doctor doing house calls and the insurance person coming. Yeah. That's the generation of inviting people to your house is very normal. The current generation, me being in that bucket as well, if a person knocks on your door, it's completely crazy. And why is somebody coming and they're not invited? And stay away, text me or email me or Instagram me or whatever social network that you're using. So really speaking to that. And then most importantly, getting in the car and doing home visits with the sales director. The only way, in my opinion, is to do it, demonstrate, model, and prove that you're going to get invited in, that you're going to break bread, learn a lot, and have those great moments. And then in turn, our sales directors and the sales team are going to believe and start doing it on their own.
Are you a proponent of either or both, of either setting the appointment, letting them know you're coming, or drop-ins? Can you talk to me about it, what your feelings are there?
It depends. If a person has anxiety about doing home visits in the beginning, to schedule it is okay. A nice thing we've trained our sales directors to do as dipping a toe in the pool is instead of mailing a brochure, drop it off. Instead of mailing a piece of collateral, drop it off. And I think just by doing that, your salespeople are going to find they're going to be invited into the home, they're going to enjoy it, and then the buy-in occurs. And then as people become a little bit more comfortable with it, then a drop-in is a more than appropriate, and 9 out of 10 times just as effective.
So talking about lead anemic communities, outreach, coming out of COVID, which prohibited a lot of face-to-face outreach. Literally promoted what you and I are doing right now, which is virtual meetings. But can talk to me a little bit about new perspective and what are the outreach objectives and expectations, and can you share a success story?
Yeah, well, right now we're trying to perfect the best recipe for a blueberry muffin, because we're going to take these muffins and we're going to drop them off at our professionals and get referrals. Oh, I made you laugh.
Sorry.
So that we're not doing that actually, but I have tried that before and it doesn't really work. It doesn't work. The blueberry drop does not work.
No. Okay. So that and you're in Minnesota, right, David?
Yes. And it is
blueberry. Is it blueberry season, like in the summertime, right?
It is not. It's actually still snowing in Minnesota, and it's April.
It is soon to be.
Yeah, I think tomorrow it'll be spring, and then it'll be winter, and then spring again. But
exactly. But until then, you're going to have to go with an alternative plan.
Exactly. So, okay. All kidding aside, it's outreach can be treated very similar to prospect-centered sales, building trust, building a relationship, nurturing, and driving referral flow. So from our standpoint, again, in outreach, and we're still trying to perfect it, and we do have a long ways to go in this area of our business, but it's less is more. So refine a list of professionals, no more than 10. The old days, it was build a list of 100. Well, make it small. We use a software called Vision LTC, which is very helpful, which provides us Medicare data, beneficiary data, a lot of interesting data to help guide who we're going to target. So using data to help support that. And then teaching our sales directors, again, by jumping in the car and doing it, is identifying a win-win prior to doing an outreach appointment. So instead of being that typical blueberry muffin dropper and saying we have great care, great food, great cookies, etc., really identify how can I benefit them. So if it's a nursing home, we can benefit them by discharging our people that we can no longer serve to them. If it's an independent living, we can benefit them by driving more independent people that otherwise may not be as happy in our environment. So really finding that win for the professional and then using that as a way to build a relationship, get buy-in, and ultimately drive referrals. And that's the hardest part in my experience to teach, because most people that I've come into contact with, me included, are very uncomfortable doing outreach and they want to stay inside. And if we can teach them how to identify wins and use that, and also less is more. And then lastly, calendarize their outreach. So put it on your calendar. You spoke about this in your book, Julie, but make it intentional. Put it on the books. If it's not on the calendar to do outreach, it's not going to happen. Just like running, doing exercise, or doing anything that you may not really enjoy, you have to put it on the calendar.
And then commit to it. And
commit to it.
Yeah. The more you do it, it becomes a habit. I like and agree with less is more, and that it's really sales. Outreach isn't marketing, it's sales, it's relationship building, right? And identifying, right, what people need, what's important to them. And I think if people wrap their arms around that just a little bit more, that it's really very similar to working with prospects. A lot of listening, a lot of caring, a lot of connecting, empathy, providing solutions where we can. Maybe some of that fear goes down.
Exactly. And being thoughtful. My favorite story of outreach is I had a sales person years ago that went to a nursing home here in Minneapolis 93 times in 4 months. And I looked at our CRM and she had one referral from this individual. So I went with her and I just said, well, what's going on? Why are you going here? What are we missing? Can I help? So I went there and they were best of friends after 93 visits.
Yeah, you would think
They were a similar age, similar interest, a similar chapter in life, and they had just a great rapport. And then I asked this woman, why aren't you referring our way? And she said, because we're under strict guidelines from our mothership to not refer out of our system. And totally cool. I get it. But we should have asked that question probably 87 visits prior, because it's not a good use of time. So.
Yeah, I think that said, we're so excited when someone will talk to us. And because we are afraid, I know Elaine is nice to me, or it's going to be pleasant. And it makes sense that a skilled nursing would potentially refer. It's a great example. It's very much similar to when we become best friends with a prospect, we sort of cross that line. And we're like unable to we lose objectivity and we're unable to give them advice, but we feel like they're going to move in because they're so nice and we like them and they like us and we become best friends with them.
You're spot on, Julie. Yeah, we see that all the time too, is we do a wonderful job at New Perspective building relationships and trust. Yeah. We do a subpar job at times using those relationships, to your point, Julie, asking those hard questions, being a little bit provocative and advancing them to that move in, because we're doing all that work to get that opportunity. Yeah. So it's on one hand, we're saying, build a relationship, because this is an emotional time. Number one, it's an emotional sale, emotional decision, and connection, and very important, connection. Yep. But at the same time, don't lose objectivity to understanding that what people need from us at this point in their life and the point of relationship is advice. Right. So similar. I love that word, objectivity. Yeah. Spot on. Yeah. So let's shift gears. Our remaining minutes left, and you have so much to say. And I'm going to pretend that this didn't record so we can do it again. But talking about New Perspectives, you guys have had tremendous growth and success in recent years. Curious about onboarding new sales directors. Can you give us maybe some best practices to onboard new people? Yeah, I would love to. I think couple best practices, and I know I'm being Captain Obvious, but I'll try and add a little more color, is a hire right. I am personally see quite a bit more success from people outside of our industry that have a strong why they want to get into our industry, have a genuine curiosity of people, and are driven. And usually we're on point with the out of the industry and genuine and a strong why. But the driven part is just something to really look at, because that's what's going to help move the needle. And then once we bring a person on, to have a true onboarding process. So ours is 2 to 3 weeks. They don't have the noise of their community on them, so they don't need to worry about their building during that time. They spend some time with mentors in the field. We have many sales directors at New Perspective that are fantastic trainers, guides, mentors, and it's really important to us that a new person aligns with 1 or 2 of those people, because now they have a sounding board that they can call when or if needed. And then, of course, our district directors of sales are the quarterback to that process. And then lastly, what I'm probably most proud of here at New Perspective is we built we call it a knowledge review. I used to call it a test, but HR got mad at me. So we call it a knowledge review. And that sales director spends 2 to 3 hours with me as the VP of sales at our resource center. We go through that review. And more importantly, it's a time for me to connect and understand how did we do, what are we missing, what can we provide. And the knowledge review is not a pass fail. It's more of a, where are you doing well and where do we need to spend more time coaching. So I think all of that, from the mentors to the 3 weeks without a noise of your building, and then to the knowledge review, is a recipe that's worked more times than it hasn't. So,
and it sounds like a good recipe. Knowledge review is done at what stage?
At the end of the onboarding process.
Okay. So like within the first month?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. I love that you use the words in describing who you're looking for. Someone with genuine curiosity and someone who's driven. How do you, how can you tell, or as this kind of process goes along and then in a new hire, how can you tell somebody is going to have long-term success?
Well, I can't tell 100%, to be honest. But I think step 1 is you must have an involved executive director. Mm-hmm. I don't care how good I am, or the district director of sales, or the sales director, or the building. Truly, that executive director needs to keep that daily involvement and inspiration, because most salespeople need quite a bit of pats on the back and recognition. And as you and I were talking prior to the podcast, the sales at times can feel as if they're in their own little world, and mm-hmm. we need to get them involved. So the ED involvement, and then continue to feed them with different goals, stretch assignments, financial carrots, the growth opportunities. All of that keeps your peak performers fed and engaged.
Mm-hmm. It can get lonely, right? Because we need our sales teams in the zone, right? Focused on revenue generating activity, and be that driver, be the leader, and keeping someone sort of that over here. It can feel like we're kind of over here. So that's a topic for another podcast. So anything else that you can share with us, or any advice, David, you could give us heading into Q2 here of 2022?
Yeah, my best advice is focus on the fundamentals. I know times are tough at times, and we try and do these wacky tactics and strategies, and most of the time it's just putting unnecessary stressors and time on the field. So focus on nurturing those leads, focus on the fundamentals, and continuing to lead with positivity. And at times we have to come down and hold people accountable. But if you lead with positivity and you have those deposits in your sales team, and then you can provide that feedback, and they'll actually listen.
Great advice. Great advice. Well, David, thank you again and again. We'll look forward to our next chat. Enjoy spring in Minnesota.
Thank you. It's almost
When
over.
it gets there.
Thank you.
And I look forward to those muffins. Very excited about that.
Yes, I will talk about that in the next podcast, Julie.
Definitely. David, have a great rest of your day. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.